I mean, I feel for some reason that I'm meant to be doing this, because if I hadn't started doing this and it hadn't turned into something, then it would have never become what it is. I love action figures, I love toys, I always have. To be making them myself is the coolest thing in the world. If I told my 5-year-old self that wanted to be a police officer that you would be a toy designer instead, I wouldn't believe it. It's the coolest feeling in the world. It's pretty gratifying. The most gratification I get is from making the very first figure, when that first one is fresh out of the mold and I can paint it and figure out the paint application and take a photo of it and have that very first one. That's the best feeling that I get. When I was a little kid, my grandmother would go to garage sales and get me vintage action figures, because I was born in 1985, so I kind of missed the boom of Star Wars figures being released at stores at retail. So she would go to all the garage sales and pick them up for me, and it just kind of got me really involved and interested in toys at a very early age. First I'll design a character and concept, and then start with a sculpt, kit bash an action figure, make that physical item, and then make silicone molds, and then start pouring resin to mass produce them. Then sand the pieces, paint the pieces, package the pieces. The whole process is done here in my basement. Standing back and seeing everything that I've made and all the people that have collected them, and seeing them in people's collections and all over the world. I mean, I've sold things literally every continent, every country for the most part. Seeing people find joy in that, and when they see it and they get it and being excited and stoked on it, I mean, that's where the real enjoyment comes from. Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, has bought some of my stuff. People that direct movies, and guys that Larry David has figures of mine, Jerry Seinfeld, all types of different people. Seth Green. My favorite part of the whole process is just the ability to be creative and kind of see something that I have in my head come to light and be a toy. I mean, I've grown up collecting and playing with action figures my whole life, so now to be able to make something that's kind of from my own head and then make it into a physical form and see it presented and packaged and sold at stores is pretty neat. So around 10 years ago, I was just making one-of-a-kind kind of sculptures based on action figures and using action figures. And as I was making like the one-of-a-kind pieces, I would put them in art galleries here around town, and they would sell, and then I would have to remake them, because ultimately I'm making all these things for myself. Like, I have one of each thing I've made over all the years. I really pride myself on making things that I want to make. As I was making the one-of-a-kind pieces, a friend of mine suggested, instead of having to remake them all the time, that I could make silicone molds of them, or make molds rather, and start mass manufacturing them. And with the social media happening, I was fortunate enough to be kind of at the right place at the right time, and posting them online, and people just started sharing them and following my work and asking where they could buy them, and it just kind of snowballed into a company. I didn't anticipate that happening, and I didn't set out to be like, I'm gonna start an action figure company, or I'm gonna do this for a living. It just happened organically, kind of. Some of the challenges that I've had were just kind of starting from scratch. Like, there really wasn't anything to base what I was doing on. Now there's maybe even thousands of guys that do this around the world, the same exact thing that I do. And back then there was nobody doing it, so it was kind of learning things that seem so simple, as like to make a figure have a cape. Like, where would you source the material, the same kind of material that they would use in the 1970s at Kenner Toys? Every single day people reach out and tell me that they look up to me, and that they found inspiration in what I do, and that they want to start doing what I do. And I've helped hundreds, countless people. I wanted it to become kind of like a scene in an art scene where people are doing it worldwide. I feel 100% I was meant to be doing this. I don't feel that I would be doing anything else.